We saw Alioth at the end of Loki Season 1, with the team of Lokis losing classic Loki to the temporal entity. But who or what is Alioth, and why is it present at the end of time? What is his domain, and how will it factor into the upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine movie? If you like us, you too are interested in Alioth, its origins, and how the MCU will use it going forward. Well then, keep on watching. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. The story of the entity called Alioth. In Marvel Comics, Alioth is a temporal entity who is a rival of Kang's and not his guardian, as was shown in the Loki series. In the comics, Alioth is one of the many temporal entities and one whose domain is 2 to 3 times that of Kang's. Alioth even made Kang shake in his booties, which is why he who remained only remained till 2000 BC, while Alioth had aeons in his domain, since before man even came into the picture. After all, Alioth was the first being to break free of time, despite looking and behaving like the Cloud of Extinction. Like in the series, it destroys everything it comes into contact with. Ouch. The terror of Alioth was such that even Kang the Conqueror never tried to expand his domain vertically. Yet, when Kang kicked it and Ravonna took over, guess who she came across? Yep, the temporal cloud of destruction itself. The threat was such that Kang had to be revived to help the Avengers with the Chrono Key. The key, of course, turned out to be Tempest, another temporal entity, and like Rawa and Watu, Tempest and Alioth are locked in eternal combat. Kang often uses other tricks to weaken these rival temporal entities and maintain his kingdom. In which comic does all this take place, you ask? Well, we see Alioth called Alioth the Usurper in the comic, The Terminatrix Objective Number 3. Here, the 20th century version of the Avengers team is fighting a version of Kang and his time troopers after escaping a Chronopolis ruled by Ravonna. In the uptime, which represents the future, the Terminatrix version of Ravonna is tricked into meeting Revelation, who is a Ravonna from even a further point in time where she has become Empress of an empire beyond Kang's, and then also ruled alongside him over both his and her empires. In Revelation's past, which is the now of the comic, Chronopolis is about to be attacked by Alioth, who if he wins will devour all empires. But if Kang can keep him at bay, then, eventually, Revelation gets her empire, even though Ravonna loses hers since Kang is awake again. Of course, only Kang knows how to keep the usurping cloud of destruction at bay, but he lies in suspended animation, and in many timelines, that is the moment Chronopolis falls. Issue number 3 of this comic series ends with Alioth wrecking and destructing in a 20th century town where Timely is the mayor, while in the uptime, Ravonna goes to review Kang using a gizmo from Revelation. This comic sets up the scene for how terrifying Alioth is if Ravonna and Revelations are willing to risk their empires and review Kang to defeat it. It is giving pure destructive force. Issue 4 capitalizes on this, showing us how Alioth functions through Kang teaching Ravonna about him. The entity absorbs the bodies of time travelers to grow his mass, and no time travel is possible through him. Worse, no one can go to a time point before Alioth came because he expands to cover all adjunct possibilities the moment he occupies a time period. Talk about being OP. Then again, Alioth is a primordial being older than even the Celestials, who, as it turns out, wants to encompass the Avengers time period too, and only Kang has been keeping him at bay. We know what happens next. The Chrono Key is given to the Avengers, and Tempest and Alioth are locked in eternal combat. After all, we do need creatures of similar strength when it comes to battling Alioth, whom Thor's mightiest blast didn't even faze. Essentially, this being sets into motion a lot, simply because Kang and the others have to always be ready to stop him from taking over all of time. That is one heck of an antagonist to be up against, and it does set up a lot in the comics we see Alioth in. After all, he is the reason Kang is revived, and Ravonna's future might not be Revelation. Now that we know what happened with Alioth in the comics, it makes us wonder why his appearance in Loki was so brief, and if Deadpool and Wolverine will change that. Guardian of the Void, as he appeared in the MCU's Loki series. In Loki, Alioth is what is called a trans-temporal entity that guards Kang's castle at the end of time. It is also Kang's insurance policy against any attacks, for Kang has experimented on the power of Alioth and become its master. He who remains even used it to end the very same multiversal war that bred Alioth into existence. How is Alioth Kang's insurance against any attacks though? You see, anything or anyone that is pruned and ends up at the end of all time is likely to meet Alioth, the cloud of mega destruction, and it'll devour the entire person or object, leaving only a husk behind. No wonder it took a team of crafty Lokis to survive at the end of time, and even classic Loki described the experience as being in the Shark Tank. Alioth is the Jaws rep here. No wonder it took both Sylvie and Loki to enchant the entity enough to get past it to Kang's castle, and even then, classic Loki had to fool the creature and sacrifice himself. How did that happen? Well, you see, when Loki was pruned and ended up at the void at the end of time, he glimpsed Alioth. He knew of it thanks to the Loki variants that had survived the Shark Tank. Of course, Loki being Loki realized that Alioth is a living entity and thus can be killed. Thus, when Sylvie was pruned, she fought Alioth, which led to her seeing what it was guarding, Kang's citadel. She only escaped Alioth's purest of her after this, thanks to Mobius arriving in a car, but this is where the plan to enchant the creature was hatched. You see, Sylvie says that Loki could use some help and hence self-prune. Oh, and she also linked with Alioth, which makes her plan to enchant the creature more promising than Loki's plan to kill. The team proceeds to do that, and classic Loki conjures a great display of Asgard, making Loki realize just how strong he can be. Of course, when Alioth cannot devour the conjuration, the creature takes classic Loki instead, who goes out with a shout of glorious purpose, something that all fans love. Yes, even the fans who thought Alioth wasn't as terrifying as he could be in the show loved it. Personally, we feel that Alioth being able to take out classic Loki easily after his glorious feat of strength shows how strong the creature is, though an argument could be made that classic Loki had mixed himself out or it would have been more of a fight. But well, we know Alioth is the terrifying Deathbringer, guard dog, that keeps He Who Remains Citadel safe in the Loki series, which is a letdown from being a fearsome temporal entity that can only be stopped with Tempest, and has the power to devour all of Kang and Ravona's empires. But is he just that, or is there more to come? After all, with Kang dead, what role could his guard play in Deadpool and Wolverine unless we see the true power of Alioth, now that the creature is free from Kang? Intrigued? Well, brace yourself, because we are about to pay the Merch with a Mouth's latest trailer a visit. Why Alioth is in the upcoming movie Deadpool and Wolverine. The trailer of the upcoming and much anticipated Deadpool and Wolverine clearly features Alioth and shows that some of the film will be taking place in the Void. Given that the movie seems to feature the TVA, that makes sense, which leads us to wonder if this movie is set before Loki Season 2, for it seems unlikely the new TVA will be into pruning people in timelines. Or is this a rogue faction of the Time Variance Authority still living by the old rules? Another reason for the pruning could be that the TVA needed someone powerful at the end of time because Alioth, without Kang to control it, is about to unleash itself on the time stream. Thus, sending the titular duo of Wolverine and Deadpool to the Void to ensure that doesn't happen makes a lot of sense, given their healing factors. While others would be an easy meal for the Trans-Temporal entity, these are characters that can regenerate from a drop of their blood or just their heads. A husk of their body seems like a pie to their healing factor. Hence, they can endlessly battle Alioth, where others might have failed until the creature is finally killed or subdued in some form. If the foe is Alioth at its most powerful, then why not send a Loki variant though? After all, Sylvie is still out there. Or what about Mobius M. Mobius, who has escaped the creature before? Well, while Sylvie as a Loki variant can be crafted enough to dodge and defeat Alioth, even she doesn't have the healing powers that this duo has. And Mobius is only human. Given this, do you think it is time for us to brace ourselves for the true might of this cloud of destruction? And given the powers of Alioth, is there a chance other Avengers and X-Men will join Wade and Logan from across the multiverse? We have seen quite a few of the villains of the previous X-Men movies in the trailer around Giant Man's head in the trailer. Plus, the Fantastic Four will probably have something to do with the quantum realm or time travel, given their movie seems to be set in the 60s, and yet they have to be brought to the modern world somehow. Or perhaps we will see Ant-Man again, given that he, just like Loki and Sylvie, has defeated a Kang variant, and while the MCU seems eager to move away from the Kang saga, let us not forget, in the comics, Kang had to be revived for Alioth to be stopped. One cameo we would love to see is the god of stories Loki himself on the throne. What will our favorite trickster do when his newly found glorious purpose is threatened? I guess to get our answers, we have to keep our eyes peeled for more Deadpool and Wolverine content. Though, considering Cassandra Nova is part of the tale and Deadpool seems to be recruiting Logan to help save his world, it is unlikely the duo are trying to fight for the TVA, and more that they are fighting against them to keep Vanessa and Wade's timeline alive. In such a case, it could even be possible that the two are trying to unleash Alioth without knowing how deadly it can be. Or like the team of Lokis, these two are also trying to get to Kang's Citadel beyond the entity's protection. Questions. Yet, say we do get Alioth at its peak, what does that even look like? While we have touched upon the creature's powers when explaining its origins, I think we can once again take a look at exactly what it can do. Alioth's arsenal. Other than powers such as the absorption of time travelers which help it grow, Alioth is a force of destruction. In the comics, he can also, as mentioned, curb possibilities by expanding to take over all possible timelines once it has entered a time event. The being can also use pseudopodia to attack focal beings or locations. In the MCU, it can absorb entire universes, something that fans have realized even the TVA cannot do. This is called omni-absorption. Alioth can also generate electricity, manipulate its body, and fly. So, what do we think of this entity? Well, here's a marvelous review. Alioth is a primordial creature in the Marvelverse with the power to set to match. A being that encompasses all possibilities once it's entered a timeline, absorbs the energies of time travelers, and can take Thor's most brutal hit without a flinch, is an interesting foe. Even in the MCU, Alioth, despite his greatly reduced terror, is still influential in how it can eat the bones off of anything that enters its domain. Sure, it guards Kang's Citadel and the Void at the end of time, but who is to say it doesn't want an empire of its own like it did in the comics? Or perhaps it even wants total destruction time so that chaos and the Void can spread anywhere. Given how little characterization this being is seen in the MCU, anything is possible. In the comics, the creature's role as the usurper and destroyer is set, and yet there is a mystery surrounding it, such as beings that can travel through time, heralding Alioth and yet saving the Avengers when it attacked Chronopolis. Does Alioth have an understanding of time streams, and is there a concept similar to Doctor Who's fixed points in time that we might see from Marvel next? I suppose we need to stay tuned for more Marvel content to follow. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.